Hello students, you're welcome to the lecture, Fundamentals of Web Programming. In this first chapter of Basics of Web Design, we'll look at the Internet and Web Basics. Today's lecture on Internet and Web Basics will equip you with learning outcomes such as how to describe the evolution of the Internet and the web, how to explain the need for web standards, how to describe universal design, how to identify benefits of accessible web design, how to identify reliable resources of information on the web, how to identify ethical use of the web, how to describe the purpose of web browsers and web servers, how to identify internet protocols, how to define URLs and domain names, how to describe HTML, how to create your first web page, how to use the body, head, title, and meta elements. You'll also be able to name, save, and test a web page. The evolution of the Internet. The Internet was originally intended to be an interconnected network of computer networks. The military used communication gadgets as a way of tracking each other during the war. Scientists, on the other hand, also used it in the 60s to accelerate their research and laborious calculations. Then came ARPA.net, which stands for Advanced Research Project Agency, where 4 computers were successfully connected. That was in the year 1969. Later on, the NSF.net, which stands for National Science Foundation, was also developed. In those days, the Internet was also restricted to government research and academic use. It was actually restricted due to the introduction of APRA.net, and they actually lifted the commercial ban in the year 1991. Let's take a look at convergence of technologies. Over the years, web design technology developments have transitioned from one level to another, as shown on the slide. Number 1, commercial use of Internet was allowed. www was invented at CERN. Affordable personal computers were made possible. There was a launching of GUI operating systems. We had the first graphical browser created. And easy online access was developed, especially for people with disabilities. And more importantly, the widespread use of the web has brought simplicity into several manual tasks. Continuing with convergence of technologies, a removal of the ban on commercial activity, we had development of the World Wide Web at CERN, as well as development of the first graphics-based web browser named Mosaic at NCSA. We also had affordable personal computers with GUI operating systems. And finally, we had affordable internet service providers in the US, such as American Online, CompuServe, and so on. Looking at web standards and the W3C consortium, we can see that W3C, known as the World Wide Web Consortium, develops recommendations and prototype technologies related to the web. In addition, it produces specifications called recommendations in an effort to standardize web technologies. The W3C also developed WAI, known as the Web Accessibility Initiative. This is to help make the Internet more accessible to people with disabilities. Web accessibility. The power of the web is established when it is fully functioning and accessed by everyone regardless of disability. It is also an essential aspect quoted by Tim Berners-Lee. Accessible websites provide accommodations that help individuals with visual, auditory, physical, and neurological disabilities overcome barriers. Again, WAI, known as Web Accessibility Initiative, develops accessibility recommendations such as WCAG 2.0, WCAG 2.1, which is an expansion of WCAG 2.0. The Web Accessibility Initiative also developed Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. These are found in the link below. Okay, let's continue with web accessibility. The Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act requires that government agencies must give individuals with disabilities access to information technology that is comparable to the access available to others. Also, there was Section 508 refresh in the year 2017, which requires meeting with WCAG 2.0 success criteria. The success criteria assures conformance to WCAG. The Universal Design (UD) is a strategy for making products, environments, operational systems, and service welcoming and usable to the most diverse range of people possible. Its key principles are simplicity, flexibility, and efficiency. And whether we realize it or not, most of us benefit from UD on a daily basis. Originally developed in response to the needs of the aging population and people with disabilities, UD has much broader applicability. It increases ease of access to products, places, and services for multiple diverse populations. Please visit the link below to facilitate your assessment. Overview of the network. Networks are classified into 5 categories such as local area network, wireless local area network, wide area network, virtual private network, and virtual local network. A network can be defined as a group of computers and other devices connected in some ways so as to be able to exchange data. Each of the devices on the network can be thought of as a node with unique addresses. Looking at the slide, we can see that the switch is right at the middle here. On the left, we have a printer, and here we also have a workstation, another workstation, and we have a server. So we can call this like a local area network within an office. If a router is now connected to this switch, the whole operations or the whole data within the office can be sent out into the internet. So a router is connected, and that gives us the access to the outside world. The client-server model. The client-server can be described as a relationship between 2 computer programs. The client requests some types of service, such as a file or database access from the server, while the server fulfills the request and transmits the results to the client over a network. A common example of client-server networks include DNS, which is domain name systems, web browsers, web servers, and FTP, known as File Transfer Protocol. Most people experience client-server networking daily, using computers, smartphones, and tablets connected to the internet. Let's continue with client-server model. Looking into the slide, we can see that the client is the web browser, while the server is the web server. Looking at the relationship between web server and web browser. The web server is a software program or a system that manages web applications. It generates responses and accepts input from clients. A web browser, which is also the client, is a program that searches the internet for information via websites, whereas the web server is used to create linkages between websites and web browsers. Looking at the slide, we can see the web client is actually on the left and the web server is on the right. We can see the direction of the request, and we can also see the direction of the web server response. So the web client will make a request and the web server will produce a response for the web client. The Internet Protocol IP is the method of protocol by which data is sent from one computer to another on the Internet. Each computer, known as a host on the Internet, has at least one IP address that uniquely identifies it from all other computers on the Internet. A single protocol cannot make the Internet work, but a number of protocols with specific functions are needed. There are three main types of network protocols. These include network management protocols, network communication protocols, and network security protocols. Communication protocols include basic data communication tools like TCP/IP and HTTP. Looking at the common internet protocols, we can see that the official communication protocol is TCP/IP. First of all, we want to look at the common types of protocols. Here we have the Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol, User Datagram Protocol, Post Office Protocol, Simple Mail Transport Protocol, File Transfer Protocol, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. In addition to the common types of protocols, we also have the specialized protocols. We have the File Transfer FTP, we have the Email SMTP, POP3, IMAP. We also have websites, which are HTTP and HTTP2. Looking at the structure, we can see it has a header, it has a source of the data, it has a destination of the data, and it has checksum to check the data at every point to ensure it is correct. The Hypertext Transfer Protocol are a set of rules for exchanging files such as text, graphic images, sound, video, and other multimedia files on the web. Whenever web browsers send HTTP requests for web pages and their associated files, web servers will send HTTP responses back to the web browsers. In another word, our web client devices send requests to servers for the resources needed to load a web page. The servers will send responses back to the client to fulfill the requests. The HTTPS Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, on the other hand, combines HTTP with a security and encryption protocol together. Looking at the IP address, it has been established that each device connected to the Internet has a unique numeric IP address, and these addresses consist of a set of 4 groups of numbers called octets. Let's have a look at the Google IP address, for example, 216.58.194.46. The 4 sets of numbers are divided by dots. An IP address, or Internet Protocol address, is a series of numbers that identifies any device on a network. Computers use IP addresses to communicate with each other both over the Internet as well as on other networks. There are 4 different types of IP addresses. We have the public, we have the private, we have the static, and dynamic. Domain name locates an organization or other entity on the Internet. Domain name system divides the Internet into logical groups and understandable names. It associates unique computer IP addresses with text-based domain names you type into a web browser, such as http://google.com. Remember, the IP address of 216.58.194.46 is already associated with the Google IP address in return. The URL means Uniform Resource Indicator. The URL represents the address of a resource on the Internet. It is also referred to as a web address. URL consists of multiple parts. It includes a protocol and domain name that tells the web browser how and where to retrieve a resource. There are 2 types of URL. One is the absolute URL, and the second is the relative URL. A URL consists of 5 parts: the scheme, the subdomain, top level, domain, second level domain, and finally the subdirectory. TLD means top level domain name. Top level domain, TLD, identifies the rightmost part of the domain name, which means the name at the very end of the web address or the final component of a domain name. Some of the generic TLDs are as follows: .com, .org, .net, .mil, .gov, .edu, .int, .aero, .asia, .cat, .jobs, .name, .biz, .museum, .info, .coop, .pro, and .travel. The new GTLDs. As of the year 2020, there were over 1,900 TLDs. The new GTLD program is an initiative coordinated by the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. ICANN for short are best known for enabling the largest expansion of the domain name system. Many of the new GTLDs are to become available, including .bike, .guru, .holdings, .clothing, .singles, .ventures, and .plumbing. ICANN has set a schedule to periodically launch new GTLDs. Other lists of new GTLDs are available on the website address below. Country code TLDs. Two-character codes originally intended to indicate the geographical location country of the website. In practice, it is fairly easy to obtain a domain name with the country code TLD that is not local to the registrant. Country code TLDs or CCTLDs are domain extensions, better known as the letters that appear after your preferred domain name that are specific to a particular area or country. Some examples include .co.uk, .ca, .tv, .ws, .au, .jp, and .uk. Other lists of TLDs are available on the website link below. Domain name system. The domain name system DNS associates domain names with IP addresses. Here on the left, we can see the web browser requesting a web page. So we can see the direction of the request. It goes straight to the domain name system, and the domain name in return associates an IP address to that domain name back to the web browser. Now, the web browser is able to use TCP/IP to send HTTP requests to the web server. The web server responds the HTTP request without the content of the web page. A markup language is a computer language that consists of easily understood keywords, names or tags that help format the overall view of a page and the data it contains. Some examples of a markup language are HTML, SGML, and XML. SGML stands for Standard Generalized Markup Language, a standard for specifying a markup language or tag set. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. These are a set of markup symbols or codes placed in a file intended for display on a web browser. Element or tag are for individual markup code, while attributes, let's continue with markup languages, modifies the purpose of a tag. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. The XML is a text-based language designed to describe, deliver, and exchange structured information. It is not intended to replace HTML. It is intended to extend the power of HTML by separating data from presentation. Again, XHTML, known as the Extensible Hypertext Markup Language, was developed by W3C as a revised standard of HTML 4.0. It is also an application of XML. The XHTML also combines the formatting strengths of HTML 4.0 and the data structure and extensibility strengths of the XML, meaning that it is an XML-based version of HTML. Let's have a final look at markup languages. The HTML5 recommendation status was in 2014. The HTML5 is the successor to HTML4. It replaces XHTML. It also incorporates features of both HTML and XHTML. The HTML5 adds new elements and eliminates some other elements. The HTML5 was intended to be backward compatible. The HTML5 is constantly evolving, such as HTML 5.1, recommended status in 2016, HTML 5.2, recommendation status in 2017, HTML 5.3, working draft status in 2018. In 2019, W3C and wou.edu.ng agreed to collaborate on HTML to make it a living standard. Please visit the link below for further details. Here, we're going to have a look at your first HTML5 web page. So in the first line, we're having a document type, which is known as the HTML. Next, so we actually open a document type here. And the next line is the HTML language. In this case, we're using English. Yours could be JP. First of all, we create the document type, we introduce the language, and we open the head. So within the head, we have the title page. So we open the title tag and we close the title tag. So title can be the title of your web page. Next line, we introduce the meta character set, the UTF-8. So this recognizes international character sets such as Arab character sets, Chinese character sets. We now close the head. So we open the head here. We have the title, meta character set. We close the head. Next line, we open the body. So in the body, we have body text and more of HTML tags that all go here. And next line, we close the body. And finally, close the HTML tag. So the whole business of putting together this little page is to be able to manage the open and close of tags. At one point, we open the HTML at the top right here. So we open the HTML here. And we close the HTML here. And again, let's say we open the head here and we close the head here. I'm trying to get another color for the body. Let's say blue. We open the body here and we close the body here. So one thing you must remember is the open and close idea. Once a tag is open, that tag has to be closed. So we can see the HTML was open over here and HTML was closed over here. The head was open over here, the head was closed over here, and the body was open over here and the body is closed over here. So within the HTML we have all this content. Within the head we have the title and the meta character set. Within the body we have the body text and more of the HTML tags within the body. So basically this is your first HTML5 web page. I've just opened up something here and I've just closed something here and open another here and close here. Altogether, you can have a lot of open and closes in a circle. Let's call this circle orange. Let's say we have another circle called apple, another circle called another fruit. Looking at this circle can be called a function. This circle, which is a function, can call onto another circle. Let's say that is the apple, and the apple can also call another function. Let's say that is the mango. So functions can call onto functions. Hundreds of functions can call on each other per a request from the web browser. It depends on the type of computer you're using. If you're using the old 386, you're going to experience how long it takes for these functions to call on each other and to resolve the matter and to deliver what you requested. You have all this within a function, and the functions are connected together to deliver your request. Under the hood of a web page, we find abbreviations like DTD, which describes the markup language syntax. HTML elements, these contain the web page document. Head document also contain the head section. The head section contains information that describes the web page document. The title element's text is displayed in title bar of window. Meta element, this describes the character encoding. Body element, it contains the body section. The body section contains the text and elements that display in the browser viewpoint. Chapter 1 Summary. In this first chapter, we explain the internet and web basics, taken from our main topic, Basics of Web Design. This chapter provided a brief overview of internet, web, and introductory network concept along with your very first web page. In summary, chapter 1, we explain the following: the evolution of the internet, the World Wide Web, convergence of technologies, web standards and the W3C consortium, web accessibility, universal design, network overview, the client-server model, internet protocols, common internet protocols, HTTP hypertext transfer protocol, IP address, domain name, URL uniform resource indicator, TLD, top-level domain name, new GTLDs, country code TLDs, domain name system, information on the web, markup languages, your first HTML5 web page, index HTML, and finally, we examine the topic under the hood of a web page. We have now come to the end of the first chapter of Basics of Web Design. Thank you all for your attendance.